Right, we move on to hens, and really if you've had a look at the sheeps and pigs and goats lesson, you'll see that the principle is exactly the same. In fact, if you have a look at all of the lessons on animals about measuring and colours and light and shade and so on, exactly the same things apply regardless of the animal that you're painting. Now in this case, of course, with hens, you can see that virtually whatever pose that you have from the hens, you still come down to this basic triangular shape. If you look at geese and swans, you can see that the shape of the body is perhaps more likely to be oval, and then an oblong for the neck and a circle or an oval for the head. This goose here, for example, which is this one that we've done, and we'll detail that in a moment or two, you can see is an oval, a few triangles at the back end, an oblong for the neck, and the circle and a triangle for the head. Similarly for the feet. And notice for these Canada geese how it's very easy to create an authentic figure that's some distance away but doesn't need an awful lot of detail. For the peacock, this one here, phthalo blue mixed with white gives you a perfect colour for that very distinct rich blue colour that you find in the peacock. It fades off to a green under the body, and I've just sort of hinted at that, and all I've done is added a little bit of cadmium yellow. So you've used phthalo blue and cad yellow to create those nice colours under the body, and subsequently the subtleties of this green colour around the I don't know what you call it, the tail or the brush of the peacock. But let's have a look at a very simple example of a hen, and I'm going to look at this hen and also this hen, because you can see that that's walking away from you, that's side on, and the only thing almost that determines whether you've got a side on view like that or a walking away from you view like that is actually the position of the legs. Here of course they're side on, here they're slightly differently positioned. Right, I've rubbed out that little image that we had because I just wanted to see what we were talking about. Let's do that absolutely from scratch. So we're starting again. We've got this sort of triangular shape here, like that, quite an elongated triangle. We've got a circle for the head, small circle, and then we've got this big oblong for the comb, another little sort of, not an oblong, sorry, an oval, another little oval for the underneath the beak, and we've got a fair sized circle come oval for the tail feathers. What else have we got? We've got an oblong for the front leg here, and the back leg, which is perhaps a couple of oblongs like that. And then just to give us a hint of the way the toes spread out like that, there's a hen. It couldn't be more simple. Let's get the paint out, but before I do that, I'm actually going to start rubbing out what I've just drawn in, again only to get a cleaner image, and so too much pencil won't show through and spoil the illusion when I put the paint on. Okay, you can see I've been mixing up some basic colours to replicate the colours of the hen. We're going to start off with the main body here, and for that we're going to use this slightly duller orange of yellow ochre and cad red, and I'll just drag that in, mainly following the body shape. Okay, there we go. Now one way I could have done, of course, was to paint the whole of the body this darker colour, and once that had dried, to paint over the lighter colour, which again is an advantage of acrylics. But I'm trying to save a little bit of time, so now what I'm going to do is to add a little bit of that brighter cadmium yellow, cadmium red orange, and you can see the difference right away, like that. Now you can see that I'm just putting in a slightly darker colour here and there, and I'm just streaking that in like that. All that colour is this one here. It's the same phthalo blue that I've used for with the cad yellow or I will use for the lighter areas of the tail feathers, but for a bit of consistency I've used the same phthalo blue, just added a bit of raw umber. That gives you an excellent representation of black, but it also gives you that little hint of a bluey black or a phthalo-y bluey black. And I'm using what's sometimes an irritation where the paint drags to give us that nice little effect of those feathers. There's a little bit of darker area around there, like that. But now for the fun bit. I think I'll use a slightly smaller brush and we'll get this colour here. I'm making it reasonably, not watery, but reasonably runny. In fact, I'll add a little bit of that extender gel to it. Get plenty on the brush, because what's going to happen is that the first couple of strokes will be fine, but then the paint will very quickly run out. And you can see you get that nice sort of effect, but already you can see that because it's relatively dry paint, in this case I know it's watercolour paper I'm using, but the same would happen on a canvas surface, so I'm just adding a little bit more water to that. Okay, I'm going to do one that's a little bit darker to give us a little bit of background, a little bit of three-dimensional effect. And then just to finish that off, again something that you can play around with and develop, and unfortunately I haven't got the time to do, but I've added, you can see, a little bit of white to the colour, and that's going to give us the very important highlighted tail feather, just so it gives a bit more dimension where the light is catching it. And then as a final flourish we'll just do the comb. You can see that you need to get it rather lighter than you think it ought to be for it to look right, otherwise it'll look rather too light or rather too dark. And if we want to, we can almost put some neat white on the top here just to give us a little sense of highlight. Oh, we mustn't forget the legs. They're a light grey, so we'll have a look at, we'll take some of this grey that we've used here, add a lot more white to it, and we'll just paint those claws, those legs and those claws. And with a dark mix of phthalo blue and the raw umber, we'll just get the position of the hen's eye and its beak. Now I'm looking at that in context, and compared to that, this really is hasn't had much corn over the last week, so I'm just going to change that and fill out his belly a little bit. I can spend a lot of time, to be honest, going into detail with this sort of thing, which unfortunately, if you want to get through the other things, I haven't got time to do. Notice a little bit of shadow under the legs, and then we can finish off by putting a little bit of ground that the hen is walking on. Okay, so I'm just going to throw in a little bit of shadow, perhaps just a hint of that big set of feathers there, and that you can see that does all that's necessary to create a very believable hen. Right, now you can see I've developed this goose slightly with some white on the front and some dark brown raw umber, neat raw umber under the tail feathers. I've tidied up the beak slightly, put in the eye, all again with raw umber and with a watery version of raw umber. Now what we're trying to achieve is to get these sort of textures of the feathers and these colours, and all that we're doing, you can see, is using that watery colour, and we're using it as well to bring it round, and you see how it enhances the shape of the body of the goose. And again, just even more water now, very, very watery mix, much paler, and I'm just going to just take most of that out, and you can see this sort of pale streaks of, well, it's hardly brown, it's a sort of a beige colour, quite subtle, but all the time it gives you that nice effect of the, as I said, of the roundness of the bird's body. And I'm going to leave it at that, other than to just, in the usual way, just add a little bit of land for it to stand on. So there we are. You've got swans, geese, peacocks, hens. Different shapes, different colours, different angles, all with one common principle, and that's using simple shapes. And with simple shapes, it's dead easy to get from that through from that to that.